Roberts. Let's bring in Counselor to the President, Kellyanne Conway. She joins us now live from the White House this morning. Hey, Kellyanne, good morning. Thanks so much for being here. So, coming off of that report from John Roberts there at the White House, does the White House believe this morning that this newly revealed Susan Rice email reveals evidence of misconduct?
It certainly is worth exploring. That January 20th Inauguration Day memo to her email to herself is quite extraordinary, Sandra, because you would think the outgoing National Security Advisor would be welcoming in the new administration and saying, hey, I'd like to spend a little bit of time today after President Trump is sworn in, going through our protocols, going through reviewing with you where we think the hot spots are. But instead, she was doing quite an extraordinary thing, throwing under the bus Jim Comey here, it seems to me, because he was the one person in that January 5th Oval Office meeting who was going to continue into the Trump administration as FBI director. I note that it says, quote, Comey sees no indication thus far. Thus far suggests that they felt they had a conclusion that still needed evidence. So let's just keep digging and investigating. Susan Rice already lacks credibility. This is someone who is a very different person under oath, under penalty of perjury when she is testifying, versus on her numerous television appearances. She famously blamed a videotape for the Benghazi killings back in 2012. She did the whole round of Sunday shows, and then you know what she got for that? Not scorn. She got return invitations to those shows to then lie again, apparently in April 2017, telling PBS's Judy Woodruff, quote, I know nothing about this. I was surprised to see the reports from Chairman Nunes on that count, referring to what transpired 3 short months earlier. So there is so much that we need to know, because the president is correct. This should never have happened to General Flynn personally, but it actually hurts the country. If you don't have this peaceful transition of a democracy from national security team to national security team. One last thing. They said that Comey was doing it, quote, by the book. No, Comey was doing this to then write a book. There is nothing normal in an FBI director running to his laptop when he leaves the Trump Tower, he leaves dinner with the president here, and typing out things and then coming out with a book a couple short months later. So this all should be investigated.
A lot of questions, no doubt. But what you're talking about in terms of a transition is some 3 years ago now. Here we are in 2020. Susan Rice is being talked about as a potential VP nominee for Joe Biden. Your thoughts, not just on that, but big picture here. What kind of accountability then are you calling for? It's one thing to have hearings on Capitol Hill, as Lindsey Graham wants to, but John Durham is doing this investigation. A lot of speculation. Chuck Grassley and others have said something may be coming in the next few weeks. What are you expecting?
You've seen the long short list of Joe Biden's VP choices. They all happen to be female. He sounds like a co-ed at the end of a frat party. I need a woman. So now he has binders of women he's looking through. And he's got people like Sally Yates and Susan Rice allegedly on this list. And those are 2 women who were very involved in the shenanigans that were happening in the days before we got here to the Trump White House. She can't be trusted, and she's proved that. And I think the very easy question she would be asked in a debate against Vice President Mike Pence, which he clearly would win, is, well, what did you know? When did you know? Why are you writing emails to yourself? Why are you saying one thing on TV? Do you realize she was asked by a network anchor on a show, quote, can you rule out that President Trump is a Russian asset? And she basically shrugged her shoulders. She couldn't rule out that the current president of the United States is a Russian asset. So she lacks credibility. And you know what, Ed, I got to push back on the fact that because this was 3+ years ago, it doesn't matter. Excuse me.
I didn't say it didn't matter. Let's be clear.
No, not you. Not you. They're saying this. The people who would be held accountable are saying this. Oh, move on. We have a global pandemic. Excuse me. This president's team, the task force, the vice president, have been working day and night for over 2-3 months now on the global pandemic. We can also have the proper authorities go back and see who knew what, because this country was dragged through the Russia collusion, delusion, illusion, nonsense, Mueller investigation, Mueller hearings, Mueller report, Mueller testimony for over 2 years, and we paid for it. We have a right to get that to its logical conclusion, which means look at the other side of the coin here.
Kellyanne, moving on to the crisis at hand, that is the coronavirus. The president made this announcement on deregulation yesterday. I want to ask you about it when we come out of it.
An executive order instructing federal agencies to use any and all authority to waive, suspend, and eliminate unnecessary regulations that impede economic recovery. And we want to leave it that way. We want to leave it that way. In some cases, we won't be able to. but in other cases we will.
The Wall Street Journal editorial board is applauding this move from the president this morning, but saying that it's difficult to know what fruit it might bear. Obviously, critics of the president are going to say there could be unintended consequences of rolling back hundreds of regulations at this moment in time. Is there a measurable amount that the president believes that this could boost the economy as we are seeing it struggle right now?
Yes, Sandra and Ed, the last thing that small business owners and property owners and taxpayers need as they are trying to recover from this global pandemic economically, if not emotionally, are more regulations. This has been the deregulation president. He has cut red tape and empowered our agencies to increase the rulemaking authorities and speed with which they act over the last 3+ years. So look at, I'll use FDA as an example. What the FDA has been able to do, what SBA and CMS have been able to do with the hospitals and small businesses in short time, it really is the kind of deregulatory action the president is contemplating here. We also have a regulatory Bill of Rights, a 10-point plan that really gives comfort to and confidence to a lot of these small businesses who say, hey, thanks for my PPP loan, thanks for my check, but I'm so worried that I may face in my state regulatory hurdles, red tape, and I really hope some of these blue state governors will channel their inner Trump and not go back to the overburdening of the overtaxation, overregulation, allergy to energy development and small business thriving and surviving that they had as their records before all this hit. We've been collaborating so beautifully with all of these governors over time that I certainly hope small businesses in every state will be able to thrive. But the regulatory reductions will be smart and targeted and really so that people don't face additional burdens as they're trying to get through the reopening and recovery.
Absolutely. We don't want to let this pass without noting that today we can mark that all 50 states in some way have opened up. Talk about how that important that is for the economy. And also specifically, there are reports now that the president may be inching towards having political rallies again, maybe virtual first, online, but then going to how quickly can we expect that?
Sure. Well, Ed, first on the most important factor here, which is 50 states now have some kind of reopening plan. We've been working with all those governors. I was on the governor's call with the president, the vice president, first lady 2 short days ago. One of the components discussed there was the fact that the cure cannot be worse than the disease. We have this increase in mental health challenges and suicides and drug use because we're creating a pandemic within the pandemic, and that all precious lives lost for whatever reason are precious lives lost. So a piece of that is making sure that the isolation, economic desperation is included, that we don't want people to feel terrified to leave their homes, and they're facing their June 1st bills now. We're closer to June 1st than May 1st now. They're facing these bills. So we're urging these governors to each consider mental health and other maladies as part of the reopening plan. Look, the president made very clear that the governors have the final say in the latitude to do what they think is best in certain geographic areas. We'll have the governors of Arkansas, a Republican, and Kansas, a Democrat, today here at the White House. And the president also recognized he's keeping watch on what other places of worship and professional sports and schools and daycare centers are doing as well. The CDC has put out guidelines, but we also hear from many experts that getting our children back into an academic and social structure to give them that support. You know, Sandra and Ed, it's very heartbreaking to me to read the statistics and the anecdotes, the increase in child abuse, spousal abuse, drug abuse, mental health challenges. In some places where kids, with the synagogues and the mosques and the churches closed, the schools closed, so many of these kids don't have a safe place and another adult to go and say, I'm being harmed, or I'm worried about the arguments or the alcohol use, whatever it is. We have to make sure that when we're, quote, getting back to normal reopening, we put these kids first. We're listening to the scientists and the economists as well. But it's so exciting for this country to feel that people who are qualified to go back to work, they're in low infection rates, they have supply surge, hospital capacity, they haven't been impacted or exposed, they don't know anybody who's been impacted or exposed, and they want to get back to work, they want the dignity of work. We are slowly and safely doing that. And I have to say, as an American, we should all be happy how much collaboration there has been with all of these governors, right, left, and center. That is really the greatest thing. And I think some of these mayors don't get enough credit, too.
We've got a few seconds left, but what is the White House thinking on public schools in this country being able to safely reopen in the fall?
Well, that, of course, will go to each state and perhaps even down to the school districts. But we are putting out guidelines as to how safely to do that. And I think we have to weigh the benefit of the kids being in school to learn. Not everybody has a great digital connection, it turns out. Not everybody has 5G and internet access. That digital divide has been very real for many students. We replaced their meals early on, Sandra and Ed, but we've got to also get them back to that social and academic structure that is so important to so many of these school children. But I know the schools will the states will weigh in on that. Not every state, not every school district, not every geographic location within a state is created equally in terms of what the infection rates have been. But I as a parent of 4 school children who have, like all school children across this country, have been navigating e-learning and distance learning, it has some benefits, but it really has a great downside too. These kids benefit from being with other kids, from being with adults, from going out and getting fresh air, from being taught in the classroom. So we want to keep them safe, but we also realize that safety is physical, but it's also mental and it's also social for many of these kids. And Ed, as for the rallies, there will be a campaign. I think Joe Biden in his basement has benefited him. We get a total of less than an hour of Joe Biden a week. That's great for Joe Biden. But there will be a campaign. There will be debates, hopefully many of them, more of them than usual, because we haven't had a normal election season so far.
Rallies this month or next month?
There will be rallies. I sure hope so, because people want to do that. I would just say, if you're socially distancing at a rally, if you only have 2 out of every 10 seats filled at a Trump rally, it look more like a Biden or a Clinton rally, so that would be odd. But he will be there, and he will be visiting these states to make sure people understand the fullness of the Trump progress report and the Trump presidency and how it has positively impacted so many American lives. This election is not a referendum only, it's a choice, and people will have that choice. They'll see both candidates, and we deserve that in our democracy.
We're going to have to leave it there. Kellyanne Conway joining us live from the White House this morning. Kellyanne, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Stay well.